Bards in D&D are commonly thought of as the do-it-all class, but some people think that they can do most things pretty well, but maybe nothing exceptionally well. I happen to vehemently disagree with that sentiment. I think if you build for it, you can make a bard that can do everything and be really good at all of it. And today, we're going to illustrate that with the most fabulous, charming, rock star bard of them all. Welcome to D4. Hey everybody, so here at D4, every week I take a deep dive into character builds for my favorite role-playing games. I like to crunch numbers about them, I like to theorycraft about them, not so that I can tell you the right or the best way to play a character, but to explore one way of building something in the hopes of creating a character that's both fun and also powerful to play. So if you also enjoy building characters for your favorite role-playing games, or if you're into theory crafting, or if you're just looking for tips or ideas on how to build something that you are thinking about playing, then welcome home. This is where you belong, and I'm super glad that you're here, so thanks for watching. My name's Colby. All right, we are almost done with our single class build series, just 2 to go, and today, we're gonna tackle the Bard. I know I made a case for Warlocks being the best single class in D&D a couple of weeks ago, right up here, but on the other hand, it might be a Bard. I mean, first of all, from just a pure damage perspective, I'm not sure if anyone is ever gonna catch that Lore Bard Pyromaniac Blaster for single target sustained damage that I built a few months ago. They just really go to the moon, especially at higher tiers of play. And of course they can be fantastic, like, area of effect multi-target damage dealers as well, right? But beyond damage, not only do they bring a lot of great support and utility to any party, but their magical secrets ability that lets them get almost any spell in the game, especially if you're playing a lore bard so that you can start getting access to those spells earlier, right? It just gives them a level of diversity and power that is sort of unmatched. If spells are the most powerful thing that a D&D character can do in 5e, and I feel like this single class build series and maybe just, this channel in general has kind of made that point a bunch of times, then arguably the character who has access to the most spells kind of wins, maybe? And their versatility doesn't stop with just spells either. If you wanted to play a martial character, a nice spell sword gish, the Valor Bard is up there with the best of them. And they're even better in 5.5, as I tried to show right up here. The first full-blown healer build that I did on this channel, and I called him the best support in D&D, was, a bard, right up there, if you want to go into the Wayback Machine. But the question I've been struggling with for the last few weeks, as I've been thinking about eventually having to build a single-class bard, is which way to take it, what subclass to use. Because, if we're just building for damage, I think the Lore Bard Caster or the Valor Bard Gish are for sure the ways to go. That said, both of those routes are a lot better if you can multiclass, right? The Lore Bard Pyromaniac doesn't get nearly to the same damage level if they can't multiclass with Sorcerer for easy advantage on their spell attacks and Metamagic for quickened spell, right? And the Valor Bard is a lot less potent without a fighter dip for concentration buffs, weapon masteries, and fighting styles. Plus, Valor Bards can't really prioritize damage without sacrificing charisma in lieu of dexterity or strength, unless we could multiclass with Warlock maybe. Plus, I've kind of already explored both of those paths. What's more, the number one goal of the builds in this single class build series is, remember, to first and foremost build a character who excels at doing what we kind of generally think that class should be good at doing, right? And while you can undoubtedly build a really hard-hitting bard, I think the bardiest bards, the quintessential bards, should actually be good at, everything, like I said at the beginning. That's kind of their shtick, right? Really solid support, fantastic utility, especially as a party face, but just generally in the exploration and social pillars of the game. Great potential control, and sure, some damage too. And so I think the subclass that best fits that concept, the most quintessential bard, it's not, I don't think, the Lore Bard, as Wizards of the Coast seemed to imply back in the 1D&D days. But I think it's actually, the Glamour Bard. I mean, come on. Not only do they get things to enhance their support and control, but they're for sure the most charming, right? The most alluring, the best seducers. I know, not all bards just run around trying to seduce everything that moves, but you know that a lot of you kind of think that maybe that's part of being a quintessential bard. Admit it. Not that being charming necessarily means being seductive, of course, and you don't have to play it that way. But yeah, I think being beguiling, charming, alluring, these are all pretty important for most bards, and nobody does those things better than the Glamour bard, right? Right. So let's build one. Heck, I've only used the subclass 3 times in my whole channel life. And I've never made Glamour like the main thing that I'm building around in any build ever. So yeah, I'm kind of excited. This one's going to be a great do-it-all character with emphasis on control and damage during combat, kind of like the Warlock from a couple weeks ago, but with a heck of a lot more capacity for support and out-of-combat utility. So, I proudly present D&D build number 246, Death by Glamour. Glamorous Mockery. Ziggy Stardust. Speak charmingly and carry a big stick. The Command and Conquer. Get it? Like C-O-N-K. Maximum Glamage. Malice Cooper. Man, shout out to the Discord users for really bringing it this week, seriously. But I think I gotta go today with a suggestion from 3 Otters in a Trench Coat, the Glamour Slammer. I mean, it's on point thematically. It rhymes. You know who else really brought it this week? Randall Hampton. Man, he knocked it out of the park with the art for this character concept. I mean, check out that, like, microphone club and the fire hair. Come on. He's so good. If you want to check out the other stuff that he's done and or, you know, try and commission him to create some art for your character or even your entire party, I will put links in the video description as always on how to do so. But first, I am excited to tell you all about a new sponsor this week, Fume. So, okay, I think everyone knows that smoking is among, if not the most difficult of habits to break, yeah? I don't smoke or vape, but one of my best friends has on and off for years, and he's quit several times, but has a hard time getting the quit to stick. I've talked to him about it a bunch over the years, and he tells me that for him, the hardest thing about quitting hasn't been giving up the nicotine, right? It's about giving up the, like, motion of it, if that makes sense. Having something in his hands, bringing it up to his mouth, breathing it in, breathing out. The motion, the oral fixation, that is kind of the most soothing part of it all for him, that he craves the most when he's trying to stop. I am going to tell my friend about Fume. I'm thinking it just might help him kick that bad habit for good. So Fume is not a vape, it's not a tobacco or a nicotine product, it's a simple flavored air fidget device. Let me show you. Looks like this. There's no batteries, there's no smoke or vapor, you're just breathing in flavored air. They sent me one to check it out. And yeah, you just like stick this little flavored core in. This one's kind of a mint flavor. And that's it. You can adjust kind of the air intake here. And you just breathe in and out. That's all. It tastes nice, actually. This one reminds me kind of going to like a spa or a steam room where the air smells and tastes like eucalyptus or something. According to my wife, who gave me a kiss after the first time I used it. They have a ton of different flavor cores to try, though. Everything from, yeah, minty, they've got this spearmint ice, to fruity, mango, to even like maple pepper. I would probably like that, actually. I love all things maple. But the flavors are a lot lighter than what you'd maybe experience with vaping, I'm told. Similar to, say, like flavored water versus soda. The device itself has like a nice heft to it. And it's really well made. It's got a satisfying like click and snap. And I have to believe that it would really help someone trying to kick a bad habit. You know, reach for this instead of what you'd normally reach for. I know it's helped a lot of people like scratch that craving itch and put the bad habit behind them for good. So yeah, check out Fume. Kick the habit. Go to tryfume.com. That's tryfum.com. Or just scan the QR code right up here. When you do, if you pick up a journey pack, you will get a free Fume topper if you use the code DND at checkout. That's DND. Fume topper is just a little soft, like replaceable, chewable mouthpiece for the inhaler. Just kind of goes over the top like that. Something soft to nibble on when the cravings hit. Okay, big thanks to Fume. I really appreciate the support, and I hope that you keep helping people kick those smoking and vaping habits to help them get healthy. All right, let's get back to the build. At level 1 for our starting class, we're going Bard. Of course, it's the only class we're taking today. For our species, you know what? I'm going to say let's go Goliath, and it doesn't matter how many times I say species doesn't matter that much, take what you want. I'm always just going to get comments from people saying you use this species too much, or you use this origin feat too much. It kind of makes me wish that I never would have started using species in my builds, since, I'm typically building for damage or damage reduction, and I'm putting things in a spreadsheet and I'm comparing these builds to one another. One option often just kind of rises to the top as the default pick if you don't have a really good reason for taking something else. And there are times that I do, especially if I'm building around a concept, right? Like if you're trying to be the best you can possibly be at making your saving throws, you might go gnome, like I did here. Or if you're trying to prioritize survivability over everything, you might go dwarf. Or these days, warforged or shifter. Or if you're trying to do burst damage, you might go bugbear, etc., etc., etc. But if there's not a clear and obvious reason to take a species that the concept and or mechanics really depend on, then yeah, Goliath kind of becomes the default, just like a custom lineage was sort of the default under the 2014 rules. So when I say take what you want here, I mean it. But yeah, if we're looking at numbers, there's a clear winner. And again, since I'm comparing these builds to each other, it feels a little disingenuous for me to say, today we're going to go Tiefling, when we don't really get anything out of Tiefling mechanically that I can put into the spreadsheet, right? So if you want to go Tiefling, go Tiefling. If we're trying to maximize damage numbers, we're going to go Fire Goliath. Alternatively, human is a great pick. I love humans because, well, I am one, and so are you, I'm assuming. But yeah, an extra origin feat is awesome. Anything else works great. ASMR feels especially on point for Glamour Bards to me, since they kind of have a built-in transformation to make themselves even more fabulous too. But yeah, otherwise, Goliath with a fire ancestry will probably do more for us than anything damage-wise, so we can, when we hit with an attack, add a d10 of fire damage, proficiency bonus times per day. Sorry, that was a bit of a long soapbox there. Let's get back on track. For our background, I'm going to say take an old or a custom one if you can and make it your own, but if not, Merchant is going to work just fine for us since it gives us the ability score increases that we want and the origin feat I want most, which is, you guessed it, lucky, as it so often is. Feel free to lean more into the support thing, like with the healer feat, or of course the entertainer background and musician feat is just as on point as you can possibly get with a Glamour Bard, right? Other options are nice too. Magic Initiate Wizard for the shield spell would be awesome, but yeah, for damage especially, Lucky is nice in that it gives us on-demand advantage for a d20 roll of our choice, proficiency bonus times per day. And I would like to have that for the one attack per round that I plan on making with this build. Go a different route if you want, you'll be fine. And your party might love you more. And that is important for any aspiring bard, no? The fans must be appeased. Anyways, for our starting ability scores, I assume the point buy method as always and say let's go at 15 charisma, take a +2 there, 15 constitution and a +1, and then a 14 dexterity. As for our starting equipment, you're going to want to just go with studded leather and then a quarterstaff or a great club. We only get light armor proficiency as a bard, unfortunately. And then yeah, for a weapon, we only have simple weapon proficiencies. And the quarterstaff and the great club do more damage than any other simple weapon, right? It's a d8 if you're using two hands for it. And yeah, I'm going to just say let's go great club. I have never, ever used this weapon in a build before. 246 builds, so yeah, let's do it. Again, it's two-handed, that's fine. We got two of them, and I mean, it's not heavy or anything, though it probably should be since it weighs 10 pounds, but it does a d8 of bludgeoning damage, best we can get for simple weapons. I love it. Beautiful, glamorous bard walking around with a big, lumpy, ugly stick. I'll bet there's a story there. Or yeah, maybe you flavor it like Randall did in the art, right? And it's kind of a megaphone thing. It's so good. Anyways, as a Bard 1, we get Bardic Inspiration, that most amazing support feature, which says that Charisma modifier times per day. As a bonus action, we can inspire an ally, giving them a Bardic Inspiration die, D6 for now, that they can use to augment any failed D20 roll they make in the next hour, potentially turning it into a success. Infinitely useful. We also get spells here, and I think we want to take the usual suspects. Sure, Vicious Mockery for a little damage, a little debuff, and a little snark. Just the perfect bard spell. But the more important cantrip here is True Strike for us, which will let us make a weapon attack when we cast the spell, but use our spellcasting modifier for the hit and damage. It's fantastic. And even do radiant damage if we want, and a little extra damage once we hit level 5. We'll be using it throughout our career. For first level spells, Cure Wounds and or Healing Word, of course, for nice heal options. Bane is a great multi-target debuff to concentrate on. Sleep and or Tasha's Hideous Laughter are fantastic. Control. But the one that we will be using in combat for quite a while, actually, is Dissonant Whispers. This is such a great spell, and unique to bards and then a few subclasses. It forces a creature to make a wisdom save or take 3d6 psychic damage as it hears our discordant melody in their mind. And then they have to use their reaction to run as far away from us as possible using the safest route. Half damage and no flee on a save. Oh, and it does scale by a d6 of damage for every level that we upcast it. Super fun, super potent. You know who else is both fun and potent? Potent. What's that supposed to mean? My channel members and patrons. Quick shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for your support. I could not do what I do without you. You're amazing. If you are not a member or a patron, I'd love it if you'd consider becoming one. There's a button down there that says join, or check the video description for a link to Patreon, where it'll tell you about all the perks that you can get by being a member. And I give all of my perks to everyone who signs up at just like the silver level or higher. It's $2 a month. I just ask that you pay, what you think it's worth and what you feel you can afford. Those perks include access to the library of write-ups that I create for all of my builds to help you, recreate them yourself a little more easily. Access to the community Discord server, and access to the live monthly Q&A hangout sessions that we have. If you're not interested in supporting the channel in this way or don't feel like you can afford it, that's fine. I'm glad you're here and watching. If you'd like and subscribe, that is also a great way to support, so thanks. At level 2, we get expertise. This lets us pick 2 skills that we are proficient in and double our proficiency bonus for them, and there are a ton that I would love to have. My gut tells me as a bard to go like performance and persuasion to be the best like bard and party face that we can be, but you might be filling the role of a scout here, right? Maybe there's no rogue or ranger in the party, in which case you might want to take perception and stealth or sleight of hand. Pick your favorite here based on what your party needs. We also get Jack of all trades at this level, which lets us add half of our proficiency bonus to any skill check we make that we're not already adding our proficiency bonus to. Hooray for the do-it-all bard. At level 3, we get our subclass, and yes, we are going with the College of Glamour. As we've said, this is totally my favorite bard subclass, flavor-wise, as much as I love Gishes. They're just so cool. Okay, Glamour bards get 2 features here. Beguiling Magic says we always have the Charm Person and Mirror Image spells prepared, nice. And that once per day, with the use of our Bardic Inspiration, immediately after we cast an enchantment or illusion spell using a spell slot, and that's important, we can force an enemy to make a wisdom save, and if they fail, they are either charmed or frightened of us for a minute, repeating the save at the end of their turns. Generally speaking, frightened is the better debuff, I think, since it gives enemies disadvantage on all of their attacks and ability checks, and prevents them from moving close to you. But as a Glamour bard, we might be opting for Charm more regularly, as we will discuss in a few minutes. Charmed just prevents them from harming you specifically, and gives you advantage on social interactions with them. We also get the Mantle of Inspiration feature here, which says that as a bonus action, we can use our Bardic Inspiration, roll the Inspiration die, and give 2 times our roll in temporary hit points to our allies, at which point they can immediately use their reaction to move up to their speed without provoking opportunity attacks. It's kind of awesome. fantastic support, great way to help allies get out of harm's way, or, at the beginning of the fight, help everyone sort of get into position. I love it. We also get second level spells here, and we'd want to go with the usuals again. I think aid to heal and increase hit points of party members, lesser restoration to cure some nasty conditions, but there are especially some nice enchantment and illusion spells to consider here too for like a free charm or fear, right? Well, it's not free necessarily other than that first time per day. You got to use your bardic inspiration for it, but still. Hold person for paralysis, suggestion to just make someone leave the fight to go save their family or whatever, invisibility, crown of madness to just take control of an enemy, PYF here, pick your favorites, have fun with them. At level 4, we get our first general feat, and I think we gotta grab Warcaster, not only because it bumps our charisma to 18 and lets us have advantage on our concentration checks, but also because it lets us cast a spell on an enemy instead of just make a weapon attack when we get an attack of opportunity, right? And that's kind of going to be our thing, as we'll see soon. So yeah, this is really a must-have for us here. At level 5, we get a lot of stuff. Level 5 is my favorite level. Our Bardic Inspiration die jumps to a D8, and our inspirations reset on a short rest now, thanks to the Font of Inspiration feature. So nice. But then we get the amazing 3rd level spells, where we find some of the best control spells. Fear and Hypnotic Pattern are illusion and enchantment spells for some nice multi-target control via the spell itself, but then that would let us, frighten or charm one additional enemy thanks to Beguiling Magic. But there's also Slow, which is just an incredible multi-target debuff. Dispel Magic is great to have if you need to get rid of nasty magic effects. Mass Healing Word is nice to have in a pinch where multiple allies are going down. Tiny Hut is wonderful utility when you need to, take a rest in a dangerous place. Good luck choosing. I want them all. Don't forget, at this level, True Strike gets a little bump so that it does an extra d6 of damage when we hit with it. At level 6, we get, as a Glamour Bard, Mantle of Majesty. And this is where everything kind of comes together for the build. So Mantle of Majesty says that we always have the command spell prepared, and then once per day, or by spending a 3rd level spell slot, we can cast command as a bonus action without spending a spell slot, and then for 1 minute, we take on an unearthly appearance, so long as we hold on to concentration for this feature, right? And can then cast command as a bonus action every turn, without spending a spell slot. Also, anyone charmed by us automatically fails their save against command. As a refresher, command lets us target a single creature within 60 feet and force them to make a wisdom save. If they fail, we can utter one of the following one-word commands that they have to obey on their next turn and then end their turn. Approach, drop, grovel to go prone, right? Halt, or our favorite for this build, flee. Why is that so important for us? Let's get into the details with our first damage report. So, here's what combat would ideally look like for us at this level. In round 1, we run up to the nearest enemy and cast Dissonant Whispers. Well, okay, we should probably use Mantle of Inspiration to give our allies temporary hit points and then let them get a free move, but I'm just assuming we're trying to go all out for damage here, so yeah, do that if you want to be an amazing ally and the most loved bard. If you want to just hurt and frighten your foes, do this, right? So we cast Dissonant Whispers. That's going to deal damage and potentially cause an enemy to flee. If they do flee, we make a True Strike opportunity attack against them thanks to Warcaster with advantage, if we've got luck points to spare, applying that 1d10 from Fire Goliath to the attack if we hit. And yes, because some people are still confused about this, you can make an opportunity attack against an enemy who is forced to run away from you. As long as they're using their movement to move, you can bonk them. It's only if they're pushed without spending their movement that you can't, right? Okay. Now, if they did run away after the spell is cast, since Dissonant Whispers is an enchantment spell, we would want to target a different enemy that's nearby and try to charm them thanks to Beguiling Magic. If the original enemy succeeded on their save against Dissonant Whispers, however, we would simply use Beguiling Magic to try and charm the one that we're standing next to instead. At that point, we could use our bonus action to activate our Mantle of Majesty and cast Command on the potentially charmed enemy, forcing them to flee. Yes, we can do this because when we cast Command via Mantle of Majesty, it doesn't use a spell slot, right? And thus doesn't conflict with the 1 spell slot per turn rule, yeah? So we could do Dissonant Whispers with our action, Command as a bonus action. And, if the enemy was charmed, thanks to our Beguiling Magic, they're automatically going to fail the flee command. If it's the same enemy that we cast Dissonant Whispers on, but who succeeded on that save, right, well, they're almost certainly fleeing now. I mean, there is a chance that they succeeded on their save versus Dissonant Whispers, and then succeeded on the save against Beguiling Magic, and then succeeded on the save against Command, but yeah, the likelihood of that is incredibly slim. So I'm just going to assume that we're getting an opportunity attack every round. And if you're commanding a second target, because the first one failed their Dissonant Whispers check, right? That's great. You've probably just wasted the turns of 2 enemies, assuming the Dissonant Whispers target has to spend their turn getting back into range. And dealt a decent amount of damage to boot. On subsequent rounds, yeah, we just rinse and repeat. I'll assume that we are upcasting Dissonant Whispers with 2nd and 3rd level spell slots, just in the interest of exploring what's possible, but in actual gameplay, yeah, you should probably preserve at least those 3rd level spell slots, I think, for something more potent. Most of the time. Or, if nothing else, just to reuse your Mantle of Majesty on a second fight, right? If you need to. I'm going to assume that enemies are succeeding on their save versus Dissonant Whispers half of the time for damage calculation purposes, but that at least one target is running from us every round and thus proccing an opportunity attack. Sound good? Under those assumptions, averaged over a 4-round combat encounter, then against enemies with a 10 armor class, we would do 29 damage per round on average. And against a 15 AC, it would be 28 DPR. And compared to other sustained damage builds I've done to date, that's almost dead last. Wait, I thought you said Bards might be the best signal class build. I did. And I still do think that you can build fantastic Bard damage dealers if you really wanted to, but I think this build is a better, bardiest bard than any of them. And the fact that they're likely shutting down 2 enemies every single round, potentially 3 actually, while still doing some pretty respectable damage is kind of awesome. Plus, inspiring their friends and healing them when they're down and raking in the gold when they perform at the tavern every night while getting the entire party all of their drinks for free and hoodwinking the town guards. This is solid stuff here, don't you doubt it. And sure, if you wanted to go even harder on the control, you absolutely could. Lay down Hypnotic Pattern or Fear or Slow instead of using your Mantle of Majesty if the enemies are, grouped up in just the right way, right? You could still Dissonant Whispers a nearby enemy on subsequent turns and have a solid chance at damaging them and causing them to flee too. I just think the Mantle of Majesty route is the best way to kind of get a nice mix of damage and control. Besides, just about any caster can throw down a Hypnotic Pattern. This is way more fabulous and terrifying. Okay, let's see where we go from here. At level 7, we get Counter Charm, which is a solid feature now. It lets us use our reaction to re-roll when we or a nearby ally fails a save against being charmed or frightened, and that re-roll has advantage. No limit on how often we can do it either, other than it takes our reaction, right? So once per round. It's fantastic. We also get 4th level spells here, and there are lots of great ones to consider. Dimension Door for teleporting with a friend, Polymorph, of course, but there are also some solid enchantment and illusion spells to trigger Beguiling Magic. Charm Monster, Compulsion, Confusion, Greater Invisibility, Phantasmal Killer. Nothing that I'm going to plan on using in combat necessarily for numbers, right? So have fun, PYF. At level 8, we get another general feat, and I'm going to say let's just, bump that charisma, cap it at 20. It's going to increase our hit chance and damage with True Strike, our spell DC, our heals, how often we can use Bardic Inspiration. That said, if I could play with non-Player's Handbook content, I would for sure consider taking Spellfire Adept here to get a little more damage out of True Strike, potentially, at the cost of our hit dice, right? And then maybe another Charisma half feat later, like Fairy Trickster, to help against all of the saving throws that we're going to be throwing out. But if it's just Player's Handbook stuff, I'd probably Yeah, cap charisma here instead. At level 9, we get expertise part 2. 2 more skills to have expertise in. And again, I think we either lean more into the party face stuff, taking, maybe deception and intimidation here. Or if we're needing to be the party's, roguelike, maybe grabbing sleight of hand or stealth, whichever we didn't take last time. Maybe investigation. But yeah. Pick your favorites, PYF. We also then get the incredible 5th level spells, and while sure, grab Greater Restoration for the best cure-all in the game. There are just so many great enchantment and illusion options here. Dominate person to just totally control a humanoid. Hold monster for paralysis on anything. Yolanda's Regal Presence for a Spirit Guardians-like spell that does less damage but can push and trip. And even Synaptic Static, my favorite burst damage AoE spell, this side of Meteor Swarm to do big damage and debuff enemy attacks, checks, and concentration. But this then brings us to our next damage report. Since last check, we have seen a ton of increases to our utility, survivability, and support options. Our damage, not so much, other than bumping our charisma modifier and increasing our spell slots. That said, if we're going to use that 5th level spell slot for damage, I suppose we might as well use it for Synaptic Static rather than a 5th level Dissonant Whispers, right? Even if we only hit one target with Synaptic Static, which is incredibly unlikely in most encounters, we'd still do 1d6 more damage with it than we would with an upcast Dissonant Whispers. And yeah, again, probably more than that on average. If we're being honest, since Synaptic Static calls for an intelligence saving throw rather than a wisdom save for Dissonant Whispers, right? Generally, monsters have a worse intelligence save than wisdom. I do love the increased likelihood of getting someone to run from us with Dissonant Whispers, though. But they still might, especially if we first try to charm, then command them to flee, right? But Dissonant Whispers just gives one more shot at it if they keep making their saves. And, if they fail the Dissonant Whispers check, it potentially lets us then control a second target with command. Of course, Synaptic Static can debuff a whole slew of enemies potentially for multiple rounds. And we would only be using it on round 1 since we only have one 5th level spell slot at the moment. And then on rounds 2 through 4, we'd use theoretically a 4th level Dissonant Whispers. Assuming that's what's happening then. Against enemies with a 10 armor class here, on average we would do 38 damage per round. And against a 16 AC, it would do 36 DPR. And that's not awesome. It's still right near the bottom compared to other damage-focused builds, though, of course, we're not really that focused on damage here, are we? More of a damage control support hybrid, just like most bards would be wanting to build, I think. And so, yeah, as a result, you might really decide to either lean more into the support and control stuff here, concentrating on Fear or Hypnotic Pattern or Slow rather than Mantle of Majesty, thus leaving your bonus action open so you can use Bardic Inspiration more often or Healing Word, right? But I do like the mix of damage and control that we get here. Maybe you just decide to blow only 1st and 2nd level spell slots on Dissonant Whispers, since we don't get a ton from upcasting it. And, the real value is in the potential control it brings, yeah? And I've sort of glossed over this a little bit, but you could potentially be putting control on 3 targets here, right? One with Dissonant Whispers, they run away and probably have to waste their turn getting back into range. You cause a second enemy to be frightened thanks to Beguiling Magic. If you can target a melee enemy who's at range when you hit them with Frightened, well, they can't move closer to you, right? Then they're not going to be able to do much in combat either. As long as your allies are near you, they're not going to really be able to get into range of anybody. And then a third enemy gets told to flee or grovel with your bonus action command. Sure, they all have to make their saving throw, but that's no different than just putting Hypnotic Pattern or Fear on 3 enemies, yeah? And then this way gets us a little more damage out of it, I think, without having to worry about hitting your allies with a nasty AoE, yeah? It's a good and fun and potent use of our resources, I think. But let's see what Tier 3 of play looks like, because things can drastically change at level 10. Thanks to the strongest Bard feature, and in fact, I might argue the strongest feature that any class in D&D 5e gets. Yeah, I'm talking about magical secrets. This says that right now, and anytime our number of prepared Bard spells increases, so level 11, 13, 15, 17, etc., those new spells can come from the Bard, Wizard, Cleric, or Druid spell lists. We add them to our list of spells known and count them as Bard spells. Also, whenever we replace one of our Bard spells with a different spell, which we can do anytime we gain a level, we can replace the spell with one from the same spell lists, right? And the versatility that gives us is now unmatched by any class in the game. Granted, we're level 10, so we had to wait a while for it. Hence the power of the lore bard, right? But still, this is amazing. The question is, which spells do we take now? Yeah, there are just so many good ones. I mean, Wall of Force seems like an obvious choice for control, an invisible force field that you can just put around people, but it's not the only one. I mean, the shield spell, yeah, survivability is great, right? Revivify, if no one else in your party has it, but Prayer of Healing is amazing to heal your party and give them a 10-minute short rest. And then there's stuff like Spirit Guardians or Conjure Woodland Beings if we want to really increase our multi-target damage round after round. Or sure, if you wanted to make yourself a single target damage dealing powerhouse, grab Conjure Minor Elementals and Scorching Ray. It wouldn't be as good as it would be if we could multi-class with Sorcerer. But I mean, Conjure Minor Elementals at the 5th level adds 3d8 to every attack we make, and a 4th level Scorching Ray fires 5 beams of 2d6 damage each. That is over 100 damage on average if all those rays hit. Triple your single target damage, just like that. If you're okay giving up control, right? And maybe you decide that the dead condition is a more potent one to inflict on enemies than Charmed or Frightened, yeah? There are just so many great options to pick from here. I'm gonna assume that we're sticking with our damage and control hybrid approach. I've done the Scorching Ray plus Conjure Minor Elementals thing plenty, but know your options and glory in just how many of them there are. Don't forget, at this level too, our Bardic Inspiration die goes up to a d10. At level 11, we get 6th level spells, and even though Contingency, Heal, and Hero's Feast are all awesome and worth considering taking here, I think we kind of have to go with Mass Suggestion, don't we? It's an enchantment spell, so free Charm or Fear when we cast it, and then, yeah, incredible, potentially encounter-ending control that doesn't even require concentration. It's so good. Also, True Strike gets a bump here to add 2d6 of damage when we hit with it now. At level 12, we get another feat, and I think we probably start focusing on our defense at this point, you know, if we didn't go with like Spellfire Adept, right, last time. So Resilient Constitution does great things for our Constitution and concentration saves, right? Mage Slayer would help us disrupt concentration on enemies and let us auto-succeed on a Wisdom, Intelligence, or Charisma save once per short rest. And then there's the old lightly or moderately armored feats, and I'm still mad that moderately armored doesn't give us shield proficiency. If it did, I might grab that over any of them. Otherwise, though, taking lightly armored just for shield proficiency or medium armored just for medium armor proficiency makes me angry. Also, though, if we really wanted to lean into our exploration and social prowess, right, Skill Expert would be a solid pick, bumping an ability score of our choice by 1 and then giving both an additional skill proficiency and an additional expertise. 5 expertises, a ton of proficiencies, and jack of all trades for everything else is pretty dang nice. At level 13, we get 7th level spells. And I mean, yeah, Reverse Gravity is amazing, but I think I'd probably either go Power Word Fortify, since it's an enchantment spell that lets you dole out an incredible 120 hit points divided up amongst you and your allies however you'd like, or perhaps even more likely, Conjure Celestial. This is just a powerhouse of a spell that's typically only available to clerics, right? It requires concentration, but then gives you a 10-foot radius area that you can just move when you move, and it either heals for 4d12 plus your charisma modifier or damages for 6d12 or half on a dex save to anyone you move the area over. And that's just incredible. As much as I love being able to use command as a bonus action every round, it's hard to imagine concentrating on anything other than this at this point for me, honestly. As long as you've got the spell slot for it, I guess. It might even be a better use of our concentration than Wall of Force or just anything. I don't know. That's a lot of damage and a lot of healing every single round. But at level 13, it's time for our next damage report. And I mean, I'm supposed to be building this thing for a mix of single target damage and multi-target control. So yeah, it's hard to know like how to crunch numbers at this point, honestly. The blessing and the curse of being a bard, I guess. Really, it's just a blessing. The only frustrating part is me sitting here going, do I crunch numbers for Conjure Celestial now? That's multi-target healing, multi-target damage, but 0 control? Or do we switch to the single-target Conjure Minor Elemental's Scorching Ray tactic? That's definitely the best thing we could do for single-target damage, but again, no control there, other than inflicting the dead condition. Heck, I could just go all in on area of effect damage here, concentrating on Conjure Celestial and throwing out Synaptic Static otherwise, enjoying a little fear or charm on one target at least when I do. But I guess in the end, I kind of feel like I went Glamour Bard for a reason, you know? I want to keep using the awesome tools they have the best that I can and keep trying to maximize both damage and control. And in that case, I mean, yeah, we could just throw out Synaptic Static and Dissonant Whispers every round for 8 or 9d6 damage, a debuff, and keep issuing, command bonus actions and charming or frightening enemies and getting our True Strike opportunity attack every round. It's not the most potent damage or control necessarily, but it might be the tactic that does both the best, as well as debuff enemies. That's what I'm going to assume we're still doing here, with the understanding that if we're really just blasting with Synaptic Static every turn, we're likely doing a lot more total damage here than I'm reporting for just a single enemy. So this tactic would look way better in actual play than the numbers I'm about to give. But for a single enemy, averaged over 4 rounds, if they had a 10 armor class, we'd be doing 46 damage per round, and a 17 AC would be 44 DPR. And yeah, I mean, that's a 30% increase since last check, and now just dead last compared to other sustained DPR builds that I've built. And frankly, not, like I've said, not accurate for total damage numbers. If we were instead to calculate against 3 enemies like I do for my multi-target damage builds, and maybe throwing out Conjure Celestial on round 1 with either a Bardic Inspiration or, better yet, a Mantle of Inspiration, and then on subsequent rounds just hurling Synaptic Static, enjoying a little bonus charm or fear, and then still having your bonus action free to maybe continue inspiring, you'd be doing over 150 total damage per round to 3 enemies. That's beating out lots of other AoE builds that I've done to date. And you'd be doing loads of healing for your allies at the same time. And, on the other hand, if you instead decided to just go all out with the Conjure Minor Elementals plus Scorching Ray tactic, you'd do 0 damage on round 1 while casting Conjure Minor Elementals, right? And keep in mind, you'd have to be within 15 feet of your enemy for that Conjure Minor Elementals thing to work. But after round 1, it would be about 150 damage per round still, depending on the enemy's AC, but, all piled onto one single enemy. So, hey, in quintessential Bard fashion, you've got options for just about anything you want to do. And you can do it all, like I've said, really well. Okay, let's see what the endgame looks like for us, shall we? At level 14, we get Unbreakable Majesty, which says that as a bonus action, we can assume not an unearthly appearance, but a magically majestic appearance. Ooh, even better. For 1 minute or until we're incapacitated. During that time, whenever anyone hits us with an attack roll, the first time on a turn, so just once per enemy's turn, but potentially multiple times per round, right? Then that attacker has to make a charisma save, good luck, or they miss. We can buff ourselves in this way for a minute, right? Once per short rest. It's a pretty fantastic defensive move. I will admit that I really wish they would have just combined this with Mantle of Majesty. It kind of stinks having to spend a bonus action for that and a bonus action for this. Or maybe, since Mantle of Majesty is only doable once per long rest or with a spell slot, and this is usable once per short rest, they just let us activate this without spending a bonus action, maybe? Considering that we also want that bonus action for Bardic Inspiration stuff, right? It's just... yeah, there's a lot of bonus action bloat for this subclass, for sure. And that's a bit of a bummer. Regardless, this is a solid feature. So let's move on. At level 15, we get 8th level spells, and there are just too many good ones, as always, for high level bards. But I'd consider Animal Shapes to basically give everyone in your party Wild Shape as a challenge rating 4 beast, right? Or Maze for some no save shutdown on a single enemy, at least for 1 round, if not more. Dominate Monster is an enchantment spell, so worth a look if you want to just add an enemy to your ranks for a combat encounter. But I think Befuddlement might actually be my highest priority on this build. It's an enchantment spell, so bonus, but then also forces an intelligence save or deals 10d12 psychic damage, half on a save, and that's a lot, But better yet, if they fail, they can't cast spells or take the magic action. So it's potentially really great against enemies who would otherwise be trying to do that, yeah? Don't forget, we do get our final bump to our Bardic Inspiration. It goes up to a D12 now. At level 16, we get another feat, and I'd probably just take one of the ones that I talked about at level 12, right, to bump our defense. Or maybe the Crusher feat? More on that in a second. Because at level 17, we get 9th level spells. And we get access to every single 9th level spell in the game. Is that right? Do Warlocks have any 9th level spells that are unique to Warlocks? Anyways, the world is now more than ever your oyster. Grab Wish if you want, or sure, Mass Heal for ultimate healing support, or heck, Meteor Swarm for ultimate area of effect devastation, or Prismatic Wall for ultimate control and damage if you can push them. Oh, now I see why you're taking Crusher. Or Shape Change if you just want to become an adult red dragon and still cast all of your spells. But this brings us to our final damage report, and we again need to ask ourselves, what in the world does combat look like for us right now with 9th level spells? I mean, I can't be just upcasting Dissonant Whispers now. I just can't do it. Is there another way to get some solid control and damage here? Okay, fine. Let's say you took the Crusher feat at level 16. This is going to get a little out there. It says that when we hit with an attack that does bludgeoning damage, we can push the enemy 5 feet in any direction, mind you, as long as they are no more than one size larger than us. And guess what Goliaths can do as a bonus action? Haha, yes, grow to large size if need be, for 10 minutes even. Just once per day, but thank goodness a reason to be a Goliath other than a little extra damage. Okay, so here's what we could potentially do. Take Prismatic Wall as your 9th level spell. It's not an enchantment or illusion spell, alas, but it doesn't require concentration. On round 1, we cast Prismatic Wall in a globe. It's got a 30-foot diameter when we do that, so a decent size. And you want to trap as many enemies inside the wall as possible. That's some solid control, check. But we also want it to be only 5 feet away from just one enemy. We would then run up to them, use our bonus action for Mantle of Majesty, and command them to flee. If they fail, they don't have to run into the wall necessarily, though to be fair, the verbiage on the command spell says they just move away from you by the fastest available means. It doesn't say anything about trying to stay safe here, right? Like other spells sometimes will when they're having to run away, like the Fear spell, I think, says that. But assuming they instead try to just run like along the side of the wall, skirting it, right? When they leave your reach, you would opportunity attack and true strike and push them 5 feet through the Prismatic Wall thanks to Crusher. Doing this would do 60d6 of damage, half if they make all of their saves, right? And potentially restrain, even petrify, maybe blind them, oh, and teleport them to another plane of existence. How's that for control? So yeah, that's amazing if they fail their save against command and you land your attack. But hey, it's amazing even if those things don't happen, because all of the poor suckers trapped inside that prismatic wall are gonna be stuck there unless they want to brave trying to pass through the wall, or they know how to destroy each of the 7 layers, right? But even if they do, that's gonna take forever. The question, I suppose, is what do you do on subsequent rounds? How do we average this over 4 rounds? Let's say that on round 2, you stay near the prismatic wall bubble and use your bonus action to, cast command and tell an enemy to approach, which again, they do by the shortest and most direct route. I mean, I think that means they would have to run through the prismatic wall if you could see them and the globe was between you and them, right? Again, it doesn't say anything about them trying to stay safe. Maybe if you're standing near the edge of the bubble so that you can kind of see over them a little bit, but there's still a bit of that sphere that's between you and them. I don't know. And I don't know where the enemies are going to be on the battlefield. Let's just say that every turn you're getting a chance to either get an enemy to run through, or you're going to play golf and push them. Maybe they've approached on their turn, and so you use your action to True Strike and push them, right? Because remember, if they fail their save against it, they don't do the thing that you command them until their turn. They don't do it immediately, right? So yeah, they ran up to you on their turn, and then on your next turn, you've got your action to take a hit at them with a True Strike and push them, and then use your bonus action to bring another one over. Or maybe they're being forced to run through the wall on their way to you, etc. I'm just gonna say 50% chance of them failing their save that would result in them moving, and then 50% chance of making their saves against the prismatic wall damage if we hit them, or if they have to run through. Does that work? I know, this is all bonkers at this point. You could just do the whole prismatic elevator thing if you wanted. You've got access to every spell necessary to pull it off, but I'm just trying to be fun and creative with what the Glamour Bard can do. And I like the idea of trapping enemies inside the prismatic wall bubble to start off combat. So, okay, if half the time we don't even get a chance to push someone into the wall, whether because they succeeded on their save against command or whatever, and then when we do get to push them into the wall, they succeed on their saves against the damage 50% of the time, then averaged over a 4-round combat encounter against enemies with a 10 armor class, we would do 109 damage per round, and against an 18 AC, it would be 100 DPR. We did it! We broke the century mark. We went from dead last to like middle of tier 2 for single target damage compared to other builds at this level, and we're putting down some amazing control to boot. We're fantastic. Okay, yeah. Let's just get to the final thoughts here, shall we? There is a lot to say here. So the tier score for this build, if you take the damage that they do against every armor class at each of the 4 damage reports that we report on and just average it into one big number, we end up with a 49. And even though that would put us near the bottom of all DPR builds that I've ever done, and in last place compared to all other single class builds that I've done so far, I don't really think that number means very much. Maybe more so on this build than on any other build that I've ever done. So yeah, okay. Looking back on this build, I honestly kind of wish that I didn't even crunch numbers for it. It's a little late for that now, but I mean, I don't usually present numbers for support builds, right? If they're going all in on healing or all in on control, and this one was like almost doing that, but not quite. And the stated objective of this single class series is to try to maximize damage while working within the, what's this class supposed to be good at, restraint, right? So here we are. In the end, you know what I think my biggest takeaway might be for Glamour Bards? That level 6 feature, Mantle of Majesty, it needs a buff. As is, it reminds me way too much of Hunter's Mark and Rangers in 5.5. I know, Bards are amazing, and so arguing that one of their subclasses, which is really good, should be buffed might seem crazy to you, but hear me out. The big problem we all seem to have with the current Ranger and Hunter's Mark design is that while Hunter's Mark is a decent spell early on, it quickly gets outpaced by better, more powerful spells that also require concentration. And so giving Rangers class and subclass features that require Hunter's Mark means that you either forego concentrating on better, more powerful spells, or your class or subclass feature is just a non-feature, right? Add to that the bonus action cost to transfer Hunter's Mark, and before long, it just feels like a really bad idea to rely on the spell. So instead, you just end up getting some features that are largely worthless. And Mantle of Majesty largely suffers from the same problem. When you first get it, it's pretty great. Using the command spell every turn as a bonus action without spending a spell slot? Nice. It does require our bonus action every turn, but that's a pretty good trade-off. But before long, you get to a place where you have to ask yourself, is this feature really worth concentrating on? I mean, arguably, you're asking yourself that question right when you get the feature, since we've got 3rd level spells like Hypnotic Pattern, Fear, and Slow, right? And so, sure, getting a bonus action command is great, but I mean, we're a bard. Starting at level 10, we have access to all of the best spells in the game, and most of the best ones require concentration. Do we really want to forego using Wall of Force or Conjure Celestial or Reverse Gravity for a bonus action command? Most of the time, probably not. So what's the solution? I'd say it's simple. Let the feature not require concentration once you get to Bard level X. Arguably, I think you could remove the requirement for concentration right away, but that might make it too good. So maybe at level 10 or 11? I will say that building around it like we've done today has been a ton of fun, and I think we've managed to make a Glamour Bard that is a pretty solid controller who simultaneously deals some decent damage and then just brings all of that amazing utility and support that only the bardiest bard can bring. But yeah, once we get those really amazing concentration spell options, suddenly Mantle of Majesty feels like a bit of a non-feature, and that makes me sad. Didn't stop me from trying to get the most out of it though, did it? And, it does feel pretty awesome when we first get it, I think, especially, and maybe for those first few levels afterwards. And sure, in the end, I could have just said, okay, Mantle of Majesty got us this far, but from now on, we're gonna stop using it so that we can really get crazy with our damage, or really get crazy with our control. But, meh. Again, going that route would have felt a little disingenuous to the concept that I was going for, I think. A damage control hybrid that bards in particular can really excel at. Of course, the beautiful thing here is that as a high-level bard, you can just do whatever the crap you want. Amazing control, insane damage potential, top-notch support, all in a lovely package of skill monkey, party face, and charmer extraordinaire. There's a reason that a lot of people argue that bards are the strongest class in D&D right now, and even though the numbers we presented today don't necessarily show that, I still think there is a very strong argument to be made that they just might be, in fact, the cream of the crop for power and versatility, especially at higher levels of play. But whether you agree with me or not, that is the build for the week. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure had fun building them. I hope you know that I love you. Thank you so much for all that you do for me and for this channel. It means so much to me. It really does. I hope you have a fantastic day and a really great week. And if you don't, please, 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 please hang in there. Don't give up. Love your people. I hope that you will do good and be kind and that I see you again very soon. But until then, take care. Okay. Bye. This is ground control to Major Tom. No, sorry. Let me start that over. I'm going to sing a different part of the song. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door. And I'm floating in a most peculiar way. And the stars look very different today. I think if you're going to do a Glamour Bard, you gotta go David Bowie, right? You could go Kiss. I wanna rock and roll all night and party every day. Or, of course, actually, the art for the Glamour Bard in the Player's Handbook most reminds me of Jam is truly outrageous, truly, truly, truly outrageous. Where's my 80s kids in the comments? Let's go. Come on. That cartoon was not very good, but I watched it. And that's what that Glamour Bard looks like. She looks like Gem. Anyways. Or, if you're trying to prioritize survivability over thing, or if you're trying to But yeah, if I want to maximize... sorry, that was a bit of a soap. At level 7, we can do this once per short rest. We can assume this... Oh, that water bottle is full. All right.